Ladies and gentlemen, I want to talk to you today about an idea I keep hearing everywhere. It's become popular, it sounds good, it rolls off the tongue real easy. People say, Jim, I just want a soft life. I don't want stress. I don't want struggle. I just want things to feel good. And you know, I understand the desire. I understand wanting peace, wanting comfort, wanting ease. But let me tell you something important, something most people never stop long enough to examine. The way the world uses that phrase, soft life, has become a disguise for avoiding responsibility, a disguise for avoiding work, a disguise for running away from the very disciplines that create the kind of life people think they're asking for. You see, the modern world has mastered one skill, selling comfort. Everywhere you look, someone is telling you that the good life is easy, instant, effortless. Just follow your feelings. Follow your impulses. Do what you want. Do what's convenient. Do what requires the least amount of strain. But my friend, that's not the soft life. That's the fragile life. That's the life where everything feels smooth for a moment and then collapses in your hands. It's soft on the outside, but hard on the inside. So allow me to offer you a different perspective. A perspective I learned through years of failure, success, observation, and discipline. The real soft life, the life of peace, security, confidence, stability, does not come from avoiding difficulty. No. The real soft life comes from mastering difficulty. It comes from learning to handle the weight of your responsibilities so well, so faithfully, that life begins to cooperate with you instead of resisting you. Most people never see that truth because they confuse comfort with freedom, they confuse relief with progress, and they confuse pleasure with peace. But the truth is, the life you want, the one with margin, with options, with dignity, with space to breathe, that life isn't bought with comfort. That life is bought with discipline, because discipline creates order. Discipline creates capability. Discipline creates confidence. And those things, those are the materials that build a life that truly feels soft to live. So today, I want us to dismantle this idea that comfort leads to a better life. I want us to peel back the illusion, and I want you to see, perhaps for the first time, that discipline is not the enemy of the soft life, it is the foundation of it. Once you understand that, everything about how you live, decide, and grow will begin to change. Now, let's move to something most people never stop to think about, the hidden cost of comfort culture. And believe me, there is a cost. There's always a cost. You see, we live in a world today that has mastered convenience. Everything is fast. Everything is easy. Everything is designed to remove effort. And on the surface, that sounds wonderful. Who wouldn't want life to be easier? But here's the problem. When everything becomes easy, you become weak. When life demands nothing from you, you learn to contribute nothing in return. And one day, you look around and realize all that ease came with a silent price tag attached. Let me explain. The messages we're surrounded by today are subtle but powerful. They say, do whatever feels good. If it's uncomfortable, it must be wrong. If it's challenging, it must not be meant for you. And I've got to tell you, my friend, those are dangerous messages. Not because comfort is bad, but because comfort is seductive. Comfort invites you in with a smile and then quietly steals your future while you're not looking. Comfort says, sleep in today, you deserve it. Comfort says, skip the workout, you'll start tomorrow. Comfort says, let's enjoy a little treat, just this once. Comfort says, don't work on that dream tonight, you're tired. And you know what's interesting? None of those things sound harmful in the moment. In fact, they sound pleasant. They sound reasonable. They sound justified. But here's what comfort never tells you. I'm taking something from you every time you choose me. Comfort doesn't announce its withdrawals. It doesn't hand you a statement every month showing you what you've lost. It just quietly siphons away your potential, your energy, your confidence, your dreams, one small decision at a time. You see, comfort always asks for payment later. That's the trick. Comfort is like a credit card with no interest for the first few months. It feels great at the start, easy, effortless. But then the bill arrives, and by the time it arrives, it's too big to ignore. Comfort costs you momentum. Comfort costs you self-respect. Comfort costs you future options. Comfort costs you the confidence that comes from keeping your word to yourself. But comfort never tells you that at the beginning. Comfort only speaks in whispers. Just this once, it won't matter. You can always restart later. And that phrase, restart later, my heavens, that might be the most expensive promise in the world. Most people never realize they're being robbed because the robbery is slow. Comfortable decisions feel harmless until you add them up. One missed day becomes one missed week. One small indulgence becomes a habit. One skipped responsibility becomes a pattern. Suddenly, the life you wanted is far away, and the life you have feels heavy, disorganized, stressful, and you wonder how it happened. It happened because you trusted comfort. And comfort is a liar. Let me tell you the truth. Comfort is pleasant, but it is not loyal to you. It is not invested in your future. It is not committed to your growth. Comfort is committed to one thing, keeping you exactly where you are. And if you want a better life, a bigger life, a freer life, you cannot afford to live under the influence of comfort. Not because comfort is wrong, but because comfort is expensive. The price is hidden, the bill is delayed, but the cost is guaranteed. Now that we've uncovered the cost of comfort, let's talk about another kind of cost, one you must understand if you want to build the life you dream of. I call it the two prices of life, and you will pay one of them. Nobody gets a discount. Nobody gets an exception. The bill always comes due, sooner or later. The first price is the price of discipline. The second is the price of regret. Now here's the difference. The price of discipline weighs ounces. The price of regret weighs tons. When you choose discipline, you're choosing a small, manageable cost today. A cost that's clear, upfront, and honest. Discipline says, do the work now. Make the effort now. Pay the price now. And yes, it may be uncomfortable. It may be inconvenient. It may require a little sacrifice, but the price is small, the price is light, and the price is temporary. But regret is cruel. Regret is heavy. Regret shows up late after the opportunity has passed, after the habits have hardened, after the window has closed. Regret doesn't knock. Regret kicks down the door. Regret doesn't ask for ounces. Regret demands tons. And it keeps collecting interest long after the moment has faded. Let me show you how these two prices work in real life. Discipline is the price of waking up early. Regret is the price of waking up one day and realizing the years have slipped away. Discipline is saying no to junk food today. Regret is hearing your doctor deliver news you never wanted to hear. Discipline is studying the extra hour. Regret is standing in front of a closed door you were meant to walk through. Discipline is saving some of your income. Regret is looking back at decades of earning and having nothing to show for it. Discipline is putting the phone down and focusing. Regret is knowing you could have been someone extraordinary, but distraction stole your destiny. My friend, if you think discipline is hard, try regret. If you think discipline is painful, try missed opportunities. If you think discipline costs too much, try undervaluing yourself for an entire lifetime. You see, discipline is honest. It says pay a little now and enjoy more later, but regret is deceptive. Regret says enjoy everything now and pay for all of it later. And the later cost is never equal. It is always greater. Every day. You are choosing which price you pay. And here's the part most people forget. You don't escape cost by choosing comfort. You merely postpone it. And postponed costs always grow. So the question isn't, will I pay? The question is, which bill will I pay and when? Choose the price of discipline. It's small, it's manageable, and it leads to reward. Avoid it, and the price of regret will arrive heavy, painful, unavoidable, and deeply, deeply personal. When you understand this, discipline no longer feels like punishment. It feels like protection. Protection against the life you don't want. Protection against a future you'll wish you could rewrite. And that, my friend, is why the price of discipline is the best bargain life has ever offered. Now let's talk about one of the great misunderstandings of our time, this idea that if you simply follow your feelings, life will lead you somewhere wonderful. That if you just trust your impulses, trust your emotions, trust whatever mood you wake up with, you'll somehow drift your way into success, happiness, fulfillment. Well, let me give you a truth that may sting a little, but it will save you years of frustration. Your feelings are designed for survival, not success. And if you let them lead, they will lead you into the hard life every single time. Think about it. Your feelings want comfort. Your feelings want ease. Your feelings want immediate gratification. Your feelings say, let's skip the workout, let's stay in bed, let's avoid the difficult conversation, let's choose the path of least resistance. But listen carefully. The path of least resistance is always downhill. It never leads upward. It never leads you where you truly want to go. If you follow your feelings, let me tell you what kind of life you're signing up for. A life where you're always tired, a life where you feel behind, a life where you know deep down you're capable of more but never quite reach it. You'll live with the constant weight of almost disciplined, almost consistent, almost committed, and almost is a very heavy burden to carry. Your feelings say, I don't feel like working today, but your bills will not feel like waiting. Your feelings say, I feel overwhelmed, but your goals will not shrink themselves to match your emotion. Your feelings say, I'm not in the mood, but life does not organize itself around your mood. Your feelings change every hour. Your future does not. That's why following your feelings leads to the hard life, because your feelings only care about right now, and your future cares about everything but right now. Let me give you a picture. Imagine building a house on sand, soft, shifting, unstable. That's what it's like to build your life on your feelings. Every day the ground moves. Every day the structure shakes. Every day you're adjusting, restarting, rethinking, resetting. That's not a soft life. That's a stressful life. But imagine building that same house on rock-solid foundation. That foundation is discipline. Discipline says, your feelings can ride with you, but they don't get to drive. Discipline says, you can complain, but you cannot quit. Discipline says, you can feel tired, but you can still show up. Life becomes harder when you follow your feelings, not because you are weak, but because feelings are unreliable guides. They have no vision. They have no strategy. They have no commitment. Feelings live in the moment, but success lives in the long term. So here's the truth. Following your feelings gives you the illusion of the soft life today, but guarantees the hard life tomorrow. Following your plan gives you a slightly harder life today, but guarantees a much softer life tomorrow. Never forget this. The hard life now creates the easy life later. The easy life now creates the hard life later. And that is why discipline, steady, deliberate, committed discipline, is the only trustworthy compass you have for the life you truly want. Now let's move into one of the greatest paradoxes you will ever learn about life, one that took me years to understand and even longer to appreciate. And here it is. Discipline and freedom are not opposites. Discipline is the source of freedom. Most people get this backward. They think freedom means doing whatever you want, whenever you want, however you want. They think freedom means no rules, no structure, no routine. But let me tell you what most people call freedom is nothing more than being controlled by their impulses. You see, a person who cannot say no to themselves is not free. A person who cannot stop eating what harms them is not free. A person who cannot save money instead of spending it is not free. A person who cannot wake up when they said they would is not free. They are not choosing, they are being dragged. Dragged by their appetites, dragged by their emotions, dragged by circumstances, dragged by their habits. Real freedom comes from the ability to do what needs to be done even when you don't feel like it. Real freedom is having a future you're proud of, not a moment you're entertained by. Real freedom is walking into your life, your finances, your relationships, your health, your work, and feeling in control rather than overwhelmed. Let me give you an example. The person who practices financial discipline, saving, investing, controlling, spending, may feel a little restricted today, but tomorrow They have options. They have choices. They have opportunities. They have peace. That's freedom. The person who exercises discipline in their health, eating right, staying active, getting sleep, may need to say no to certain comforts. But tomorrow, they have energy. They have confidence. They have longevity. They have the freedom to live life fully. That's freedom. The person who disciplines their mind, reading, learning, thinking, may spend less time on entertainment today. But tomorrow, they think clearly. They make wiser decisions. They solve bigger problems. They earn greater rewards. That's freedom. And here's the irony. The people who avoid discipline in the name of freedom end up with the least amount of freedom. They avoid discipline with money and end up trapped by debt. They avoid discipline with time and end up slaves to deadlines. They avoid discipline with health and end up prisoners to their own bodies. They avoid discipline with habits and end up captive to their cravings. Discipline is not the cage. Discipline is the key. Discipline is what gives you the ability to choose your life instead of inheriting a life you don't want. Discipline gives you control over the direction of your days instead of letting your days control you. Discipline gives you stability. It gives you strength. It gives you structure. And my friend, structure is not your enemy. Structure is what allows you to build something that lasts. Freedom without discipline is chaos. Discipline without freedom is oppression. But discipline that creates freedom, that is mastery. And that is the great paradox you must learn. The more disciplined you become, the more freedom you create. Freedom to live well. Freedom to rest deeply. Freedom to enjoy life without anxiety. Freedom to pursue dreams without fear of collapse. Freedom to wake up each day and know, without question, that you are capable, prepared, and in control. And that, my friend, is the real soft life. Not the life that avoids responsibility, but the life that's strong enough to handle it with grace. Now, let's explore one of the most timeless principles I ever discovered, the seasons of life. If you understand this, you will understand yourself. You will understand your progress. You will understand your struggles. And perhaps most importantly, you will understand why so many people quit right before their greatest breakthrough. Life comes in seasons, just like the world outside your window. There is spring, there is summer, there is fall, and there is winter. And if you fail to recognize what season you're in, you will make decisions that cost you dearly. But if you understand the rhythm of these seasons, you can navigate life with wisdom, endurance, and purpose. Let's begin with spring, the season of planting. Spring is when you start something new. It's when energy is high, motivation is fresh, inspiration is everywhere. Every dream feels possible in the springtime. You buy the books, you join the gym, you start the business, you set the goals. Everything feels exciting. But here's the secret. Spring doesn't last forever. Then comes summer, the season of nurturing. Summer is where you water the seeds, protect the crops, do the maintenance. It's not glamorous. It's not exciting. It's steady, consistent, repetitive work. Summer's where most people get bored. Why? Because they planted seeds for excitement, but summer demands responsibility. Summer demands that you keep showing up even when there's nothing dramatic happening. Then comes fall, the season of harvest. This is where the work pays off. This is where the seeds become crops, where the effort becomes results, where the sacrifice becomes reward. Everyone loves the harvest season. This is when life feels abundant, meaningful, purposeful. But remember, fall only comes to those who honored spring and summer. And finally, winter. Ah, yes, winter. The season comfort culture hates the most. Winter is cold. Winter is dark. Winter is slow. Winter is discouraging. Winter is the season where you question everything, your plans, your progress, your vision, yourself. Winter's the season where nothing looks like it's working. Winter's the season where the ground appears barren, even though the roots are quietly growing beneath the surface. Let me tell you something important. Winter is where champions are formed. Winter is where the uncommitted quit. Winter's where the impatient walk away. Winter is where the undisciplined lose hope. Winter is where you feel like you're wasting time, but you're not. Because here's the truth. In winter, The crop is growing underground. You can't see it yet, but it's preparing. It's strengthening. It's forming. And so are you. Comfort culture encourages people to quit in winter. Why work hard when you don't feel progress? Why stay consistent when nothing seems to be happening? Why push through the struggle when you could just rest and try again later? Because if you quit in winter, you will never reach your harvest. Let me repeat that. If you quit in winter, you forfeit your fall. And most people quit in winter because they mistake silence for failure, slowness for emptiness, and difficulty for impossibility. But the disciplined person, the one building the real soft life, knows better. They understand that winter is a test of endurance, a test of commitment, a test of character. Winter asks you a simple question. Do you want comfort or do you want growth? And your answer during winter determines everything. So don't fear the winter season of your life. Don't resent it. Don't abandon your plan because the results aren't visible yet. Remember this. Winter is temporary, but the growth it produces lasts a lifetime. And the person who masters winter earns the spring, the summer, and eventually the harvest. That is the rhythm of life. And that is why discipline, steady, consistent discipline, is the only way you make it from one season to the next without losing your momentum or your courage. Now let's talk about something most people never measure, never evaluate, never even think about, but it determines everything about your future. I call it the self-trust bank. And my friend, this might be the most valuable account you ever open. You see, every day you are making deposits or withdrawals from this bank, whether you realize it or not. Every promise you keep to yourself is a deposit. Every promise you break is a withdrawal. And the balance in this account determines your confidence, your momentum, your discipline, your self-respect, and ultimately your destiny. Let me show you how it works. When you say, tomorrow morning I'm waking up early, and you actually wake up early, that's a deposit. When you say, I'm going to read for 20 minutes and you do it, that's a deposit. When you say, no more junk food tonight, and you honor it, that's a deposit. When you say, I'll work on my project for 1 hour, and you follow through, that's a deposit. Every deposit strengthens your belief in yourself. Every deposit whispers, I can count on me. Every deposit increases your internal credit score. But what happens when you make withdrawals? When you hit the snooze button, withdrawal. When you break the diet, withdrawal. When you skip the workout, withdrawal. When you procrastinate the task, withdrawal. When you promise yourself something and then casually dismiss it, withdrawal. Withdrawals weaken your belief in yourself. Withdrawals tell your subconscious, my word doesn't matter. Withdrawals lower your internal credit score. And here's the truth. Most people are bankrupt in their self-trust bank. Not because they're bad people. Not because they're weak, but because they never realized how expensive it is to break promises to yourself. You see, if you break a promise to your boss, you feel guilty. If you break a promise to a friend, you feel embarrassed. But if you break a promise to yourself, you shrug it off. And that's the most dangerous habit in the world. Why? Because you are the one person you can never escape. You live with yourself 24 hours a day. And if you know you cannot rely on yourself, life becomes extremely heavy. Let me tell you something I learned the hard way. Self-trust is the foundation of discipline. And discipline is the foundation of freedom. If you don't trust yourself, you won't set big goals. Why? Because deep down you don't believe you'll follow through. If you don't trust yourself, you won't stick to routines. Why? Because your history tells you you'll eventually break them. If you don't trust yourself, you won't seize opportunities. Why? Because you're afraid you'll quit halfway. But here's the beautiful part. Self-trust is rebuildable. It is repairable. It is restorable. And it grows exactly the same way a savings account grows. Consistent deposits. Not big dramatic changes. Not grand gestures of motivation. Not heroic 30-day transformations. No simple, small, steady deposits. One promise kept, then another, and another, and another. Until one day you wake up and realize something extraordinary. You trust yourself again. And when that happens, when the balance in your self-trust bank begins to rise, you change the way you walk into your day. You change the way you take on challenges. You change the way you think about your future. You stop flinching. You stop doubting. You stop quitting. Because now you have proof living, daily proof that you are someone who does what they say they will do. My friend, that is power. Real power. Quiet power. The kind that changes you from the inside out. And that power is available to anyone who chooses to make the deposits. So if you want confidence, start small. If you want momentum, start small. If you want to rebuild your life, start small. But whatever you do, start, because the richest life is lived by the person whose self-trust bank is full. Now that we understand the economics of self-trust, let's talk about something just as important, how to build a disciplined life without turning yourself into a tired, rigid, miserable machine. Because discipline is not punishment. Discipline is not self-bullying. Discipline is not a life where you grind until your soul gives out. No. Discipline is a life where you honor your commitments, not destroy your joy. Let me give you a simple truth. I've taught all over the world. Discipline works best when it begins small. Most people fail at discipline not because they're weak, but because they try to overhaul their entire life overnight. They attempt a complete life renovation on a Monday morning. They go from 0 to extreme, wake up at 4, run 5 miles, meditate, journal, no sugar, no phone, read an hour, work 12 hours, and then wonder why they collapse by Wednesday. That's not discipline. That's overreaction disguised as ambition. And overreaction never lasts. So let's talk about how discipline really grows. 1. Start with one small promise. Pick one tiny, specific, non-negotiable action you can do every day no matter how you feel. Make your bed. Drink a glass of water. Read 1 page. Stretch for 2 minutes. Journal 1 sentence. Something so small you can do it on your worst day. Because here's the truth. If your habits only work on your best days, you don't have habits, you have hopeful intentions. Small, simple, daily actions create the roots of discipline. 2, put it in writing. Write your commitment down. Make it official. Your mind treats written commitments differently. A written plan feels like a contract. A spoken plan feels like a wish. Wishes float, contracts hold. 3, remove the negotiation room. Most failures in discipline don't happen because the task is hard. They happen because the negotiation is long. The moment you start discussing with yourself whether you feel like it, you've already lost momentum. So eliminate debate. Decide once. Execute daily. 4, design your environment for success. Your environment is stronger than your willpower. If your kitchen is full of junk food, discipline becomes a battlefield. If your phone is on your nightstand, waking up becomes a gamble. If your workspace is chaos, focus becomes a miracle. Set up your environment so the actions you want to take are easy and the actions you want to avoid are hard. 5, win the first hour. The first hour of your day sets the pattern for the rest of the day. Start with intention instead of impulse. Start with structure instead of chaos. Start with something that reminds you, I am in charge. If you win the first hour, discipline follows you into the second, and the third, and the fifth. 6, track your wins. Every time you complete your daily promise, mark it down. Why? Because success loves visual proof. A streak makes you feel proud. Pride creates momentum. Momentum creates identity. And identity is the strongest force in human behavior. 7, allow yourself to be human. Discipline is not perfection. Discipline is consistency. If you miss a day, don't spiral. Don't quit. Don't dramatize. Simply say, that's not like me, and pick back up. The undisciplined person misses once and collapses. The disciplined person misses once and continues. 8, reward the right thing. Reward yourself for showing up, not for indulging. Reward the effort, not the escape. Reward the habit, not the loophole. Because if you only feel good when you avoid discipline, you will train yourself to sabotage your own progress. Let me tell you a little secret. A disciplined life is not a heavy life. It's a light life. Because the weight is not in the doing. The weight is in the postponing, the restarting, the guilt, the chaos, the confusion. Discipline removes that weight. Discipline simplifies your days. Discipline brings clarity, confidence, and flow. And remember, the goal is not to become a robot. The goal is to become someone who honors their word, builds momentum, and enjoys the peace that comes from self-respect. That, my friend, is how you build a disciplined life that is not only effective but enjoyable. A disciplined life that supports you instead of suffocating you. A disciplined life that makes the future soft because the present is steady. Now, as we bring this entire journey together, let me leave you with a truth that has guided my life for decades, a truth that has shaped fortunes, built character, saved families, and transformed ordinary individuals into extraordinary ones. And it's this: the soft life you want is built on the discipline you avoid. Most people go through life backwards. They chase comfort in the present and hope it somehow produces comfort in the future. But comfort today rarely creates comfort tomorrow. Comfort today typically creates debt, delay, disorder, and disappointment. And then we wonder why life feels heavy. We wonder why we feel behind. We wonder why peace is so hard to find. My friend, let me give it to you straight. Ease now, hard later. Hard now, ease later. Those are the only two options the human experience offers. There is no third option. There is no path of effortless success. There is no road of comfort without consequence. There is no life where you can neglect discipline and still inherit peace. You don't get to avoid the price. You only get to choose which one you pay, and when you pay it, if you choose discipline today, you earn comfort later. If you choose comfort today, you earn regret later. And regret is a cruel teacher. Regret whispers, you could have done more. Regret reminds you of missed opportunities. Regret forces you to live with the knowledge, not the guess, not the suspicion, but the knowledge that a better life was available. And you walked away from it. But discipline is a kind teacher. It may challenge you. It may stretch you. It may ask more of you than your feelings prefer. But discipline gives back far more than it takes. Discipline gives you dignity. Discipline gives you freedom. Discipline gives you the confidence to face tomorrow. Discipline gives you the power to trust yourself. Discipline gives you the quiet, steady, peaceful life. People spend their whole lives chasing through shortcuts and comfort. And here's the beautiful revelation. Once you accept discipline as the path, life becomes easier, not harder. You stop negotiating with yourself. You stop battling your own excuses. You stop living in chaos. You stop restarting. You stop doubting your ability to change. You begin to rise. You begin to grow. You begin to accumulate small victories. You begin to build momentum. And momentum, my friend, momentum is a miracle worker. With momentum, the disciplines that once felt heavy begin to feel natural. With momentum, the tasks that once felt overwhelming begin to feel light. With momentum, the life that once felt out of reach begins to feel inevitable. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the real soft life. Not the life without challenges, but the life where you have become strong enough to handle them. Not the life without effort, but the life where your effort creates abundance. Not the life without responsibility, but the life where your responsibility turns into reward. The soft life is not born from escaping discipline. The soft life is born from embracing it. So, as you leave today, ask yourself one question, a question that may very well determine the quality of the next 10 years of your life. Do I want the comfort of this moment or the comfort of my future? Choose wisely. Choose discipline. Choose strength. Choose growth. Choose the life that will honor you, not just today, but for decades to come. And remember, discipline makes the present slightly harder, but it makes the future unbelievably soft. That is the deal of a lifetime. Take it.